Okay, so leo nitakuwa naongelea studio presentation. Now, the presentations that I'm looking at with this video ni end of year or end of semester presentations. Lakini these ideas or these principles can work for any presentation. Kwa hiyo, where do you begin? Personally, I would say the first place to begin is with a hello. And this, I believe, is just to loosen up the faces of some of your lecturers or people who are listening, right? Kabla hata ya kusema nitakuwa na present hii au kujump into your presentation moja kwa moja, I would say the first thing you say is hello. And then, or in your mind unaweza ukasema anything else that helps you calm down. Unaweza kuondoa wasiwasi kama hivi. Kumbuka kwamba ni presentation ya project yako. You are the one who owns the project. You are the ones who designed the project. No one knows the project better than you do. Kwa hiyo ingekuwa ni mtu anakuambia present kuhusu astrophysics na hujawahi kusoma anything about astrophysics, au mtu anakuambia present me about time travel, ingekuwa ni kitu kingine, si ndio? Lakini kama ni project ni ya kwako, wewe ndio umedesign, wewe ndio umeamua kuweka vitu vilivyoweka, wewe ndio umeuzima moto wako au jeshi lako, kwa hiyo it is your project. So you shouldn't be as worried. And yeah, don't be as worried. And then after this, introduce yourself and your project. So you plus project. Introduce yourself and as your project. And then how you can say this. So for example, my name is Edgar Lushaju. My project is the Square House. And my client is Mr. Rectangle. Mr. Rectangle is my client. My concept is a circle. And my design philosophy is modernism, right? Let's say my design philosophy is triangle. Hapa unafanya tu summary. Kwamba usemi my design concept is a circle, which is an object with the radius of from the center. No, you just say this is you giving the summary, right? Kwa hiyo kama ni mabango, useme this is intro, right? This is you again presenting, umevaa mundinga hapo, your best clothes. These are your lectures and these are your other friends ambao hapo kwanza. Leo kaolamba leo. Ayo kazi amemaliza saa ngapi? Alizifanya saa ngapi? Everyone is questioning because your work looks so good. I think we all know who that is. Anyway, kwa hiyo unaweza ukawa na bango lako la intro ambao ndo ina project title, some few details, concept, philosophy, right? Client labda. And then ukishatoka hapa unaweza ukasema uka also define that and my requirements are, or my constraints are, or my recommendations are. Sindio? Kwamba kwenye ile bango unakuwa na requirements au constraints au recommendation depending on the type of project and what you're doing. Before I move on, labda I just explain something here, right? Mimi ninavyoelewa concept na philosophy ni kwamba concept ina guide my design form, let's say. My tangible design is guided by the concept. And my philosophy is like a guiding principle or ina guide my thinking. So for example, if my philosophy is gender equality, let's say, my philosophy is gender equality. When I'm doing my design, I would always be thinking of how do I cater for, in the case of this project, girls and boys. Maybe it's a center for girls and boys sports. How do I cater to the different needs? Not just the upfront needs, kwa sababu philosophy goes deeper and philosophy inazama zaidi kuliko tu kusema nitaweka toilets za female na toilets za male. Naweza nikasema kwamba what age group of girls labda, what are the needs of each age group? Let's say pregnant versus not pregnant, or maybe with baby versus without a baby, or with many babies versus without many babies. Kwamba mtu ambaye is pregnant na mtu ambaye ana mtoto na mtu ambaye ana mtoto mchanga na mtu ambaye ana mtoto mkubwa, although unaweza kwa group kwamba wote hasi wakina mama tu au wakina dada, they all have different requirements. So you think in my project, how am I going to address these things? So let me take a vivid example for this particular design. Kwamba my name is Edgar Lushaju. My project is the Square House. My philosophy is, badala ya kuweka triangle hapa, my design philosophy is modernism. Alafu kitu kingine ambacho ni kizuri katika kufanya summary. Kwa mfano hapa tu mimi nilipoanza kwa kusema kwamba my project is a square house, my concept is a circle. Tayari nimeshaweka question mark kwamba mtu atajiuliza huyu mtu ametokaje hapa kwenye a circle hadi kuja kufika hapa kwenye a square. And I think that is the good thing about kufanya hizi summaries in the beginning, kwamba umeshataja hivi vitu. Na pia together with these summaries in the beginning, nilisema unakuwa na bango la mwanzo hapa. Let's say una bango lako la the final drawings here, right? So hapa kwenye concept mtu anaona kuna duara. Afu hapa kwenye final kuna section 3D, let's say. Lakini akiangalia huku anaona kuna a cube, huku kwenye concept ni circle. That's a good thing. Kwamba kwenye summary itali na draw interest. Kwamba the teacher is now wondering kwamba what's this guy's idea? What is he thinking? You're building interest in the person who's listening. Kwa ukishataja requirements au constraints au recommendations, eleza kwamba these are my recommendations and this is how all of these things tie together to my project. Kwamba these are my recommendations, this is my introduction, my project, and now the following au kinachofuata is how all of these things that I've said here, all of these are gonna be represented now. And then hapa katikati sasa, sema unakuwa na mabango yako ya ziada. Hapa ndo kuna outline proposals, concept development, case studies, schematic drawings, and all that. Unaziweza katikati. So as you take the teacher from this state of asking how to this state of being like, this guy has really done it. Kwa hiyo sasa unaweza kwamba the following is how I'm going to take these ideas and show you how they relate to this, right? Unaweza ukasema kwa mfano, and now I will present my project based on my concept, guided by my design philosophy as it relates to the parameters, as it relates to these parameters, or these ideas, or these recommendations. Kwamba now after I've given you this introduction, I will present my work as it relates to them. And in terms of presenting, kile kwenye present, assuming umepewa dakika 15, kwamba you only have 15 minutes, afu kuna jamaa, some guy anapewa the clock hapa, kwamba ikilia, lazima atoe notification. Plan to present for 10 or less. And the reason I say this is because, kwa mfano, let's say una vitu 20 things to talk about, right? If you present 10 things nicely, kwamba umejipanga kwamba baada ya present 20 things in 10 minutes, I'm going to present 10 things in 10 minutes. Kwanza, if you go overboard, kwamba hata 10 minutes isipotosha, utafikisha 15. Lakini uzuri kwamba ukisha present vitu vyako 10 out of 20 in 10 minutes, the teachers will ask you this in your back and you'll have answers all the time. Lakini ukipresent 20 things in 20 minutes and you didn't even finish, you presented 19 and this one is on the side. And these 19 are shallow, yani kwamba havijakamilika. Mtu anaweza kusema kwamba huyu jamaa mbona kama project yake haijui vizuri. Yani muda wote wameshindwa kusummarize his project hadi muda umemwishia. Alafu pia mwalimu sasa hapa akisema, kwa mfano hapa mwalimu alikuwa na 10 questions. Hapa kama mwalimu ana 10 other questions, kumbuka umesha present 19 things. If you plus 10, that is 29 things they can ask about. But you only have 20 things. This is when you get questions outside your project. Kwa hiyo ulipresent labda ukamaliza, mtu akamwambia, sasa hii mstari ulionyoka hapa, what is attached to the next building? And then you're like, oh, I didn't think of that. But if you presented, let's say up to here, this much of your project, then the teacher will ask you about this much of your project. You still have something to say and you can always expand. Yani kwamba acha hizi 5 minutes for expansion, for more details, for further questions, for anything to clarify. Lakini ukipresent kila kitu kwenye 15 minutes, vitu vingine utashindwa kupresent, utaishia kuharakisha hapa mwishoni, alafu utakuwa hauna muda wa kujieleza, right? Jieleze, which is something I think that we all want. We all want to be heard. Kwamba hivi mwalimu kinisikiliza tu. So ukitumia muda wako vibaya, you don't have time ya kujieleza. In terms of mabango arrangement yako, kama nilivyokwisha chora hapa, si ndio? Kwa kuna arrangement ambayo ina support na ina complement your presentation. Have bango moja ambayo ina introduction, have another bango, or you can even have more depending on how good you are at putting out that fire. Si ndio? Unaweza kuwa na 3D hata 100, whatever. Models, you can have all your models here. You can have construction models, depending on what the design brief requires. Kwenye requirements hapa ninakuja hiyo issue kwamba what is required or expected. Now what I mean expected, I don't mean kwamba we knew we'll do that. I mean kana na ile brief ambayo ya client brief ambayo uliandaa mwenyewe au program iliyoandaliwa na walimu. Have you ticked all the things that are needed to be in here before you go to the extra mbwembwe or chai? Before you do this, umesha do all of that, kwamba kabla hujafika kwenye mbwembwe na kwenye chai umesha meet all these requirements. Anyway, ukiona sasa una present na unapanga mabango yako, kuwa na bango ambalo lina introduction, kuwa na bango ambalo lina the finished product. And as you are presenting, hapa katikati unakuwa na the process. As you are presenting, you go like this. You start here maybe, you go here, then you go here, then you come back here, then you go here. And the reason I'm saying this is not so that you confuse the teachers. I'm saying it in this sense. For example, naweza nikasema kwamba my design philosophy is modernism, right? And modernism talks about simplicity of form. So if you see, umetoka kwenye philosophy hapo, nimeenda kwenye labda kwenye outline, kwamba I took a shape that was a square because it's a simple shape. And as you can see in my final drawing, it's still there. Or let's say in my final project, maybe there was an element of simplicity that is still evident, right? Kwa hiyo nimetoka kwenye philosophy, kwa naelezea philosophy nikarudi nikasema kama unavyoona hapa kwenye concept na kwenye final. And the reason I say this is because as you're presenting like this back and forth, muda ukiisha, mwalimu or the people who are viewing have an idea, so they have seen a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of that, and you have been explaining back and forth. Kwa hiyo unaweza ukaamua kwanza na constraint moja wapo. Labda my first constraint in my house is a square door. And in order to present square doors, I looked at case studies in Square Town. Umeona, nimetoka kwenye constraint, nimeenda kwenye case study. In Square Town that has a climate of this, similar to the climate in Dar, and hence in my final project you can see this door. You see how it has moved across many mbangos. Sijaanza na my first constraint is this, my second constraint is this, my third constraint is this, my fourth constraint is this. Concept. My first concept is this, my second concept is this, my third concept is this. Outline. My first outline is this, my second outline. Yani, I go back and forth. I tell a story. The beginning is here, somewhere here. The end is somewhere here. But the process is what brings them together. And so you cannot explain the end without the process or the beginning without the process. And that's what you do. You tell a story. Mdogo mdogo, mdogo mdogo, unaenda back and forth, unaunganisha your ideas, you relay information kwamba hata kama mwalimu akiondoka halfway akarudi anakuwa anajua what's going on, au akiondoka halfway anakuwa na an idea, au muda ukikuishia tayari anajua kwamba I know where this project was going. Lakini kama una present per bango, unless that is the way you're planning, kama una present per bango, yani bongo moja moja, just make sure kwamba you manage your time, you know what you're saying and when you're saying it and how you're going to connect it. As you go through your process, your concept, as you're going through any of these individual bangos as well, always try to show how they relate to the final design. Yani don't present them in isolation. Kwamba hii bango ni bango moja peke yake, hii bango moja peke yake. Try to show kwamba how all of them at the end of the day are connected. Na mfano mzuri ni kwamba hata kama ukiangalia how you build a building, kwa mfano ukiwa na mix cement, sand na aggregates, you get concrete, right? Lakini the concrete huwezi ukasema kwamba hapa naona kuna mchanga mmoja, hapa kuna cement moja, hapa kuna jiwe moja, right? No, it's a chemical reaction that this is formed by the interaction of these. It is not kama mimi nikichukua cement, mchanga, aggregates na maji nikaweka kwa mfano kwenye plastic bags, afu nikaweka hizo plastic bags together kwamba okay, now this is concrete. No, they have to mix and then their resulting product is the concrete. So treat your project or your presentation in the same way. And then few tips. Make sure kwamba your requirements or your constraints or your recommendations are vivid. They are vivid. And what do I mean by vivid? Let me give you an example. I'm going to draw a face here, right? Then I'm going to draw another face here. This face is vivid. This face is vague. This is vivid. This is vague. Don't let your constraints or your recommendations or your requirements be vague in the final project. Let them be vivid. Kwamba mtu ukisema kwamba my recommendation was A, I can easily trace its action to the final product. Let me give you an example again of this in terms of architecture. Kwa mfano umesema kwamba my concept ilikuwa ni Nyerere. Or my design philosophy was Nyerere's principles. Then ukasema kwamba sasa Nyerere bwana alikuwa na mtoto anaitwa B. B alienda shule moja na Alex. Alex anakaa survey. Alafu survey Alex anaenda kwa Mangi. Huyu Mangi akiwa anarudi nyumbani kwake ana baiskeli ambayo ni Phoenix. Or let me just write Phoenix as we said, but it's actually Phoenix. Hii Phoenix ilitengenezwa India. India wanakulaga pilipili. Some of the pilipili are green, some are red. Hii red inafanana na jina la mtu anaitwa Redemptor. Kwa hiyo in my design you will find an image of a woman known as Redemptor. So let me give you another example. The same concept, Nyerere's principles. Akasema Nyerere fought for independence. He was the father of the nation. He fought for equality. And relative to my design philosophy of modernism, I am opting for this shape, the square, because of its equilateral size, the equal size, to represent equality, to represent justice. Na ukirudi kwenye hizi justice, equality unazikuta kwenye the father of the nation, kwenye equality, kwenye independence, kwenye freedom. These are things that are echoing each other. So I'm going to choose the shape of the square so that when I build my house for Mr. Square, we are building, let's say, social housing, right? To show equality in terms of removing the essence of hierarchy. Kwamba kila mtu atakuwa na nyumba ya square, hamna mtu ambaye atakuwa na a bigger or smaller house, or to represent that sense of sameness with people. But you can easily trace equality. Here you can trace equality in justice, in equilateralness itself, in modernism and simplicity, in freedom, in the father of the nation, in independence, all the way back to Nyerere. If I was to tell you, can you connect equality na Nyerere, it is much easier to see this connection than if I say, can you connect Redemptor to Nyerere? I am not saying this is impossible, but remember you have 15 minutes, or 10 actually. You probably want to make it as vivid as possible and less vague, right? Just as how this word is vague. You can't really see the letters here. Make it less this and more of this. That way, you won't need to explain when I come back here. When you're presenting, you can then present by point form. When you're presenting now, here, you can present and say, my design philosophy is Nyerere's ideologies. My concept is a circle, my product is a square. Unaweza ukasema kwamba how the circle inavyo labda onyesha unit, or no beginning, no end, equidistant, kwamba from this center the radius is the same. You see how when you look at it, it looks different, kwamba circle hadi square, lakini once you dive into connecting it to your philosophy and then you connect it to your concept, it is easy to see it in the end. It makes it more vivid. Na kumbuka kwamba hii design philosophy could be anything, could also be the concept. Yani these things are sometimes also interchangeable. Unaweza kusema my philosophy is architectural theories, my philosophy maybe is theories on equality, it could be theories on environment, futurism, it could be maybe Pan-Africanism, it could be forms, it could be space making, etc. They are endless. So it's no limitation. It just depends on how you connect and how you bridge your ideas so that they make sense. I'm gonna also use this to explain something. When you're presenting, here are some tips that you can look into. Pause if you can, ask, is everything okay? Any question, if you have the time. If you think that you're going too fast, you can pause, look and say, should I continue? And if they're like yes, then you continue. Kama unaona labda wanasonda in between, you can explain that, you can continue. Second, take criticism, whether it's positive or it's negative. Take it well, is what I should say. Kwamba be willing to listen, right? Be willing to hear what the teachers say. Do not be very defensive of your idea unless you are intellectually or yani kama una defend kwa akili, unataka kusema kwa akili. Yani usidefend tu kwa sababu hii ni project yangu kwa inabidi ukubali. That is not how architecture works. Sababu with the client, remember, you are the architect but you are trying to explore the client's views. So sometimes when you're presenting, mwalimu anaweza kusema kwamba hicho kitu bwana mimi naona kama vile sio sawa. One way to go about this kwenye hii kudefend kwa akili, unaweza kusema lakini mwalimu, sawa, I see what you mean, right? One answer could be like, I will take it into consideration. This is what you say when you pure, yani when kweli hujui, yani kwamba hii swali sijui, yani you can just say kwa kweli mwalimu sijui. Atakuelekeza, utasema sawa, asante, I will consider it next time, or I should have considered it. Kama unajibu, unaweza usiseme tu lakini mwalimu, unajua, you can say, you start with accepting, you accept the comment. So you're like, thank you for that comment. Oh, I see what you mean. I saw something similar when I looked in my design philosophy and I looked at a theory as opposed to I decided or I thought. I looked at a theory, something which ambayo ina exist, kinashakuwa proven or whatever. Na theory yangu ilikuwa inamwangalia a certain architect. Let's say in this case it was Le Corbusier, right? It was looking at Le Corbusier or any other Rem Koolhaas or Ajay or any other firm ambayo unajua, ambayo ni reputable firm or architect or principal. Na according to Le Corbusier, aliongelea kitu unachoongelea mwalimu. Na kulikuwa kuna two ways you can go with it. You can either support him, right? Kwamba mimi I'm going to support Le Corbusier, or you can go against him and say kwamba I don't think what Le Corbusier was saying was correct. Kwa hiyo mwalimu unachokisema ni kwamba ningeenda kwenye not support him. Lakini mimi, I went with what Le Corbusier said because of this and this. And he talks about simplicity, right? He talks about reduction of forms, and that is why I ended up with the shape of the square, because of that principle. And simplicity in terms of building, material, detailing, kwamba nikaamua kwenda na square. Kwa hiyo, mwalimu, your idea is here, I can consider it, but this is what I think. According to Le Corbusier, this is what he said. Your idea, according to Frank Lloyd Wright, could work, but this is what I think I will do, or this is what I think I do, or this is what I think I do. When you do it this way, right? Ukiwa unaelezea, una argue with concrete examples, where previously ingekuwa ni wewe na mwalimu mnajibizana au mna argue au mna discuss, umemintroduce a new character now. Huyu new character ni your philosophy or your concept. Lakini it's not just a philosophy or concept, it's a theory backed. Ni kitu ambacho kimeshakuwa tested na proven by other people who are more experienced in your project than you. Now there is 3 people in the conversation. Kwa mwalimu anaweza kusema kwamba wewe umemake a mistake. Atasema kwamba kumbe ulikuwa unaangalia this idea. Anaweza kukuuliza tu kwamba kwa nini come up with your own idea, which is also a good option. Na unaweza kusema kwamba I assessed A, B, C, D ideas and I thought this idea was great, and that's why I chose it. Au unaweza kusema kwamba I looked in a lot of research literature, lakini this guy's idea ika stand out. Ukijibu hivi, mwalimu ataona kwamba huyu jamaa anajua. If you respond in that way, where there is you here, this is your project, this is a teacher, and you've just explained to him why your philosophy guided your concept, which was informed by a theorist. Let's say in this case, it's a certain urbanist called Dr. Mrema or Dr. Swai. But these design gurus informed my idea. Then in this conversation, you are bringing in, like I had said earlier, this Dr. Swai or this Dr. Mrema here. And the discussion is no longer just between you and the teacher, but now it's between you, the teacher, and this guru that you have brought in, the reference that you have brought in. Na hii, again, mwalimu nao atasema kwamba huyu jamaa anajua. not this, not huyu jamaa, but huyu jamaa, as in you. Kwamba you are able to go through this entire process to inform your design, so you know what you're doing. And then hopefully your presentation will be great. Another thing you should remember, just in terms of a tip, is relax, the project is yours. Usiogope kwamba maswali yatakao kuja, kwa sababu mwisho wa siku ukiwaza maswali kwamba lakini ile swali itakuwa ni gumu and stuff like that. Obviously things might be difficult, but if you always think of it as like, this is my project, I am going to answer these questions as they relate to my project and nothing else, I think it might simplify your presentation, it might make it less stressful, and you can also bring in new things as they come along. Yeah, that is all. If there's anything that you'd want to ask, or if anything that if there's anything else that you want to know, you can just send me a message at Added Workshop on Instagram, right? And hopefully I'll get back to you or send you links of references and all that. Otherwise, I wish you all the best on your presentation. And if you want more content like this, feel free to subscribe here on Added. If you know anyone ambaye anaweza kumsaidia, mtumie. Kama kuna maswali, put them in the comments, whether it's in English or Swahili, whatever is more easier for you to write. And then if I ever make another one, I can try and answer those questions as well, or look into addressing those questions as well. Yeah. See you next time.